what I think that a lot of people don't realize is they're overpaying for their flights. So you book your flight nowadays, airlines, if the flight price drops, you are entitled to certainly a credit, sometimes a refund, depending if there was a schedule change or book a refundable ticket. And so what Autopilot does is it monitors the fares.
Hey there, points people. You just heard a clip from Zach Griff. Zach is a travel and aviation expert who has logged hundreds of thousands of miles exploring the world's airlines, airports, and destinations. Known for his in-depth reviews, loyalty deep dives, and breaking news coverage, he brings an insider's view to the travel experience. In this episode, expect to hear about when dynamic pricing is a good thing, best ways to save on short domestic flights, a new tool to track when you can get rebooked at a lower fare automatically, and so much more. And if you are looking to maximize your points so you can travel like Zach, you can request a free personalized tutorial video for your next points trip at geobreezetravel.com/request. We pick one free tutorial to prepare every week, which you'll find in the free GeoBreeze Travel newsletter. So make sure you open our newsletter every Monday to see if your request was the one that we picked and prepared. And now, on with the show. Hey, Zach. Welcome to the GeoBreeze Travel Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I am so excited to chat with you today. It's been probably years since we've been trying to get you onto the show, and I am excited to share your wealth of knowledge with everyone, especially because today we have a hot take, which is dynamic pricing isn't all bad, and there is great value in short-haul economy flights. Everybody thinks that to really maximize your stuff, you need to be flying business class and first class everywhere, but not always the case. But before we jump into all of that, tell us a little bit about you for our viewers who have not heard of you before. How did you get into the world of points and miles?
Again, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to do it way more frequently going forward. It's great. I love this space. I mean, for those who don't know me, I'm Zach Griff. I've been doing points, miles, loyalty, airlines, hotel, all this stuff for about 10 years now, which is crazy to think that it's been this long. I started actually just personally was super interested in all the stuff that we were kind of talking about. I had signed up for my first credit card by my dad when I was like 16 and super excited. I actually went to college, went to go work in kind of a consulting firm. And after 1 year there, I went to go join the Points Guys, one of like the first kind of earlier employees on like the editorial side. And that's been amazing. And I know everyone has lots of feelings about the Points Guy, but personally, it's been great. I have loved like meeting so many cool readers who are doing amazing things. It's also obviously accelerated my personal journey. So for folks who see me on Instagram now, on TikTok, on Twitter, X, I am posting videos all the time about changes that are happening, my experiences in the space, my general kind of life and day-to-day update. So yeah, it's been great. And I'm super looking forward to keep doing this for many years to come. But yeah.
So since you've been in the game for so long, these days, which airline programs do you think have the best programs for people who are into the points and miles game based in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I think we still, with American Airlines, find unbelievable redemptions on like those saver sweet spots. If you're going to Japan and you want to fly in JAL and it's 80K points is first or 60K, like that is unbelievable. That's like effectively unheard of nowadays. There are obviously some sweet spots over to Europe also. It's similar to Atmos with what they've done, kind of kept things, or at least for now, have kept redemptions at rates that were very much previous, like with mileage plan. So to me, those two are some of the best. And it's funny because I know you had mentioned like this take that I had and kind of going in, but I think like that is kind of the best of both worlds is what I see with a program like Atmos and with Advantage with American is right now you have redemptions that are lower than your traditional kind of your standard saver redemptions in business first. In many of these regions, you can find them with partners. The rates actually that you're booking them at are really quite lucrative, especially relative to where kind of the other airlines have moved. But what's really cool is I find that with Atmos and with American too, is they're also doing a really good job with dynamic pricing. Like, yes, dynamic pricing, period, full stop sucks. Like, it would be great to go back to a world in which we knew exactly what we'd pay, how many points we need to earn to get our tickets. But I think that what they've done really well is they've adjusted their dynamic pricing and their algorithms for a world in which fares both fluctuate up and down. And I think what's a lot of airlines end up really kind of solving for is like fares go up. And so our dynamic pricing tells us that your flight to Europe is going to cost you 450,000 of our miles to get there. And that's not just Delta. That's Air France. That's a bunch of other airlines. I mean, you see it in the Middle East, Etihad, Emirates, Qatar, like directly through their programs. Like you book those kind of like, right, you want those pricey tickets that aren't at like the guest seat or the saver seat. Like you're paying a crap ton of miles. Atmos and Advantage, on the flip side, have done a phenomenal job of accounting for, and then especially this, I really, really have found a lot of value with Advantage. I primarily redeem my Advantage miles for domestic flights now. It's domestic short haul. And it's not just for me, it's for family members, it's for friends. I'm regularly seeing redemption rates of 0.8, 2 and a bit cent per point. And not only is the redemption rate, right? Like I think a lot of people forget this in points and miles is, at least for me, the value of the flexibility of being able to cancel and just redeposit your reward and get your taxes back is something that is incredibly, incredibly valuable. Airline credit for many people is cash. And for me, it is. But if it's my friends or if it's my parents who they may decide like, hey, they want to come visit us for a weekend. We live up in New York and they're down in Florida. But then they decide they want to take the later flight and they only tell me that a day or two before. That's a really expensive trade. But with points and miles, I often lock in 2 or 3 flights, maybe on a different airline, so that the duplication detection engines don't say, oh, hey, you're flying multiple flights. And yeah, so like it's like that. All these kind of factors combined in my mind make it such that dynamic pricing can actually work for you. And not just that, it can actually work really well for you.
You mentioned a lot of great gems in there. Let's start with the short haul economy flights. A lot of people are like, it's not good cents per point. I should save up my points for that. What are your thoughts there for people who are like, I really want to stretch the value of my points? Should they be looking into short haul economy redemptions ever? And if so, which ones are best?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that I like to think about it is stretching your points further. There's no question. At the end of the day, the outsized value will always be there on kind of your long haul flights to Europe or whatnot, Asia, South America, where like the paid fares can be substantial versus the difference of what the cost in points, where it's either fixed at some saver rate or far lower than what the catch cost is. But again, what we've seen is the future, right? Like there obviously are drops in award availability. And so if you subscribe to some of our fun tools, I'm sure you have your full list of recommendations. I'm obviously using Straight to the Coins. I'm using Thrifty Traveler. I'm using like a bunch of these kind of tools and it's great. But oftentimes it's like, I'm not ready to make that booking because I don't know yet exactly what the date looks like 9 months from now. And you may not get as much outsized value from looking for those short haul economy flights. But for me, it is insane because what I do is, I'll give you a few examples. I fly a lot from the Northeast to kind of smaller airports, whether it's to visit friends or family or whatever I have going on there. And in many ways, like it's a hub captive. So the paid fares are super, super expensive, but your point valuation, your point redemption can be basically nothing. Like one route that my parents do a lot is Palm Beach to LaGuardia. And that route, obviously short, Delta, JetBlue, American now has started to fly it, but their paid rates can go up to $300-400 on a domestic redemption. And not only does American, when they release Saver Space, bring that kind of redemption in directly to Advantage to lower than the 12,500 miles that used to be kind of like your traditional standard saver award. I routinely book it for 9 and a bit, 10,000 miles. Obviously, of course, with the beauty of it being fully flexible and cancelable. But then I can also go turn that into an Atmos redemption at 9,000 points in economy for that type of seat. And then you throw on your American number into it, and then all of a sudden you're upgrade eligible and you can take advantage of the extra legroom seats and all those things too. I just recently was flying to Pittsburgh from New York. Super expensive market. I have no idea why, but it was super last minute. Also with last minute stuff. When you think about points and miles, and this was one of the things that I mentioned earlier, but for me, I often don't know where I am until the very last minute where I'm going. And I often make most of my bookings within P72, so within like 72 hours of booking a flight. United and American. Delta's been bad at this ever, but the two of them in particular are awesome about releasing last minute saver award availability. Whether it's business or economy, especially midweek, week, less so on Fridays and Sundays, but generally speaking, for kind of a lot of the routes that I track. So this Pittsburgh trip, the last minute was super, super expensive. And I just waited and I waited. And the United through the Stable redemption was lower. Again, United used to have 12 and a half, and it was like 13,500 for kind of your traditional one-way domestic economy ticket. But again, dynamic pricing, even once a saver seat became available, it was less than the 13 and a half, 12.2 or 12,400 miles. And like every little bit counts. And yes, again, I'm not redeeming the 70 or 80 Ks right now to Europe, but so be it. Like I saved myself $424 that I could have paid for, or that I would have needed to pay in regular economy.
How reliable is this if someone's like, okay, I do have to take a lot of short haul economy flights pretty regularly? Should they be waiting until last minute, or is that just a recipe for disaster in case they don't release the award seats?
You need to know the market. And so I think like that's one of the things that many of our colleagues in kind of points and miles kind of know, like they feel like they know their markets. And so to me, it's not just, hey, I think this will happen. This is, I'm monitoring loads. And what I mean by that is I'm looking into Expert Flyer or Seastat Aero and looking at like how many paid seats are available in a given kind of fare class. Are they only selling fare classes that are really expensive? And so I'm sure a lot of the folks are familiar, at least with the concept of fare classes, but just as a very brief refresher, airlines sell their tickets. They obviously price them in many different ways, but one of the mechanisms in which they use to price their tickets is basically what letter they assign to your fare that you purchase. And everyone or a lot of folks know that Y is like full fare ticket. It goes usually Y, B, M, all the way down in some cases to T, to X, to S, depending on the airline. But what's really cool with tools like Expert Flyer, Seastat Aero is they basically line up those fare classes from most expensive to least expensive. It doesn't tell you exactly how much the ticket costs, but it does tell you how many seats are left available for sale in each of those individual fare classes. And what I do, especially as it gets towards kind of last minute, is I'm looking for flights that do have a lot of availability in some of the cheaper fare classes. Airlines, when they go out to sell their tickets, often close down sales from those cheaper fare classes. They don't close it by zeroing them out, by basically closing the fare cost for sale, but they do it just by saying, you're flying from JFK to Pittsburgh on the last minute, like we will only sell a Y, B, or M, like a super expensive ticket, but they're still selling all the lower ones, in some cases for those who are connecting, in some cases just in case for reaccommodation, in case something goes wrong with an irregular operation or something like that. But that to me is golden knowledge. That's like invaluable, because that I know is, okay, well, Americans got at least 9 seats or 7 seats in Americans' case, because they sell 7 available for sale in these fare classes that are super cheap. The likelihood is something will become available. Now, again, if I were flying on Thursday nights, coming back Monday mornings, whatnot, your traditional business schedule, I would not rely on that. In a market that has multiple frequency and that you can start to understand the dynamic, I rely on it regularly, and it seemingly has worked out.
You mentioned in there connecting flights. How does the strategy of using this kind of dynamic pricing on award charts differ if you are just point to point, direct flight, no connections, versus if you are trying to connect through somewhere else, whether for stopover purposes or just there's not a direct route? What's the strategy there?
It gets harder. It definitely gets harder with the dynamic pricing. I think that a lot of the dynamic pricing models, interestingly, are not fully baked in the same way. And obviously, hidden city ticketing and all those things that, like, read your airline terms and contracts. I do not say you should be doing that. But what you start seeing when you layer in connections is that the airline kind of revenue pricing algorithms are really to the market by market differences. And so if you're flying from anywhere to Salt Lake City and you're flying likely a Delta flight, that's like super expensive. But then if you go from somewhere where you're going to Las Vegas via flying over Salt Lake City, connecting there, super cheap by the cloud, just because there's so much more competition to get you to Las Vegas and Salt Lake City. You plug that same thing into an award flight, whether it's with Sky Miles or Advantage Miles or United Miles or Atmos or even internationally, you don't see that same kind of big drop that you see. Like, I almost like explain the answer to your question via the lens in which I think about that people often think about, whether it's hidden city ticketing or added layering connections. I think of it basically as that. And then I go and show, like, hey, you look at the examples, let's go do the searches. Generally speaking, you're not going to find that same kind of beauty of like that noticeably lower pricing that you see with awards on nonstops that you do when you add in stops.
A very common question that people have when they're trying to do domestic flights is, hey, how do I just get like a really cheap economy ticket and then upgrade myself
to business class or domestic first class with points. How does that strategy kind of work in with some of the new pricing changes that we've seen across the board with the US-based airlines?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I think I have a few things to share there. First, I'll talk like high level about how I think about it. And then I actually want to talk about kind of a tool that I've been advising and I think like really cool kind of stuff here. So firstly, high level. Traditionally, there are two ways to kind of process. And I'm not talking about like using your elite upgrades or your status perks or things like that. But just for the traditional user, how do you upgrade your ticket is especially like on domestic tickets, you'll get your buy up offer from the airline, and then you'll get your kind of like fat packy style, which is take whatever you paid for economy and see what the current selling price is for a first class or a business class or premium economy ticket and apply what you paid towards basically that change and see what the difference would be. In many cases, actually 9 times out of 10, I find that there's a big discrepancy between the two. Whereas, I'll just give you two examples from literally the past 5 days. I had a friend who was flying from New York to the Middle East on United, and if they were to change the ticket directly with United from an economy ticket to business class, United wanted $4,500. If they bought the upgrade by the app, like by the seat map, on just like the upgrade button, $789, which is absolutely absurd. And the crazy thing is, 3 days later, but like within the last 5 days, had the exact opposite experience. So I'm going to fly from New York to Salt Lake City in the next 2 weeks. I bought an economy ticket, pretty pricey. It was for a family friend. I was helping them, and they had expressed interest in upgrading, but not too expensive. So I went to check both things. Delta wanted direct for like you manage your trip, you click the upgrade button. They wanted $224. If I went and did the change route, basically changed my flight, same route, same flight, but just booking it into a business class fare was an additional $120. So those are basically kind of your two big ways. Obviously, there's status and those other things, but we talk about them if you're interested. But I do want to highlight a new tool that I've been advising some folks, especially if you follow me. So by the way, I'm sure you mentioned this, but I'm at Zach Griff and Instagram, TikTok, X, Twitter, all those things. But if you follow me, you'll notice I've been talking about Autopilot, which is a new tool in the travel space, launched over the summer publicly, but it's been in beta for a while. And what they do is multiple things. So the kind of core value prop where they kind of launched with is the concept of if you book a flight and the price drops, they get a credit for you on your behalf. I worked with American, Delta, and United right now. They're working on adding more airlines into the pipeline and a bunch of other cool things. But they also have a pro kind of tier, and one of really the coolest pro tier features that I've really seen out there of like any of these tools in the space is they're monitoring upgrade prices, and they're doing it in the two kind of avenues in which I talk about. So basically you say, I booked an economy and demo some of this stuff, but like, you booked yourself an economy and you want to go and upgrade into business class or into premium economy or even into extra legroom seats. All this stuff is dynamic now. And like the way to beat dynamic pricing is to really be on top of it. And Autopilot's taking out kind of the legwork there, which is when they approached me around this advisory relationship. I was like, wow, this sounds really cool. I love what they're doing because I have this pain point all the time. So what's really cool is you kind of set your preference. Hey, on this flight, I'm willing to pay $150 and notify me. And then you get an email or push notification or whatnot, like, hey, price drop, lock it in. And I think one of the things that I was talking with the team about is how do you even get to the next level and say, okay, well, I then authorize you to lock it in on my behalf, basically maybe use my credit card or use your credit card and then charge me $150 or whatever. So that once you set that alert, it's like, because of course there's a lag. If you get the alert and you forget to click it and then 2 days later you say, oh, I want to upgrade, it's like, okay, well, that's gone because it's dynamic pricing and that's how this stuff works. And the best way to beat dynamic pricing, the same way that there are award tools to tell you when there are drops of war availability, is to do the same thing on upgrades and then on ferry, which I think is also really, really important because so many people overpay for their flight.
Does this tool also work with points upgrades? If someone's like, I want to book pretty cheap economy, upgrade with points, or does it work better if they book one of those cheap economy with things using the short haul tricks that we talked about earlier in this episode and then upgrade with cash? What's kind of the best way to go about it?
It works for both, but basically you can show what you choose, pick your poison. Now, that said, depending on how you book your ticket, the airline may not even offer, let's say, a points upgrade opportunity. Some cases they will, some cases they won't. And so it'll track on both. It'll give you the option to track. But again, the airline might say, okay, well, you redeem points outright for your ticket. We're not giving you a points upgrade offer. It's only a cash upgrade offer. Or we're closing down. It's only only points and not cash for whatever reason. And so that's just something you see in this space, and you're managing your trip directly on the airline website or directly with the app or whatnot. You'll notice like whether they're giving you the option for cash in with points or just one or the other.
Perfect. So yeah, for everybody who's listening on audio only, I recommend checking this out on YouTube. But we're going to do a demo now to look at the interface of how you can set up these different notifications for the dynamic upgrade alert. So Zach, take it away. Go ahead and share your screen and we'll walk through a couple of the core features.
All right, so here we are on the Autopilot dashboard. I've directly kind of piped into one kind of dummy flight. I'll turn over to another tab when we talk through a little bit more of the features, but I know we wanted to talk right quickly about upgrade offers alert. So it's exactly what I was talking about before, but basically if you're a Pro member with Autopilot, they let you set these upgrade offer alerts. This was a cheap Newark Palm Beach flight I just booked. Still fetching the current price, but booked it for $108. When you go into add the upgrade offer alert, you'll see that it pre-populates the flight that you're looking for. And then this goes back to what we were talking about with the different cabins. So in this case, United First is like the cabin that you can go up to. You can choose your cash, your miles redemption that you're willing to do. So let's say for this is $200 per person in cash. You add the alert, give it a second. Basically, we've got our $200 per person flight here in First. You're going to save in miles. Say I want to do 15,000 miles per person. You add that alert, and then as I mentioned, you'll end up getting that kind of ping via email, push notification or whatnot directly to you when that hits. And I'll cue it up here in a second, but I've received a few of these alerts over times for things that I want to upgrade. It basically says it's time to upgrade, and it tells you what you set, what the current price is. It's really, really simple. I want to also just turn over to the other dashboard here that I have for Autopilot. So this is kind of your home screen. This is what you log in your flights. They're actually want to quickly talk about actually like loading in your flights. So as I mentioned, it works with American, Delta, and United at the moment. And you can, to add your flight, as simple as three kind of ways. The first is easiest, is like a Gmail link. So you link your inbox and then it kind of just pulls in your flights automatically. Next easiest is you can forward your flights. So you can forward them to trips set with autopilot.com. It needs to be from a verified email address. So as long as you're logged into the email that you signed up for with your account with, then you are good to go there.
So, all right, it can do some different upgrade notification features. What else can it do?
So as I mentioned, like kind of core value prop, what I think that a lot of people don't realize is they're overpaying for their flights. So you book your flight nowadays, airlines, if the flight price drops, you are entitled to certainly a credit, sometimes a refund, depending if there was a schedule change or book a refundable ticket. And so what Autopilot does is it monitors the fares from the moment kind of it's logged into the system. You can add your flights from a Gmail import that just kind of automatically tracks your inbox. You can forward your flight confirmations. You can also just add them manually using kind of first name, last name confirmation number. And then as long as you have a card late, it basically goes and tracks the flight credit. It drops. It works with the airline on your behalf to get that credit. Takes a 25% service fee for a non-pro member. Pro members, 15% service fee. And it's a very much a value-based pricing. So basically what I really like about it is if you don't pay anything, if you win, then obviously you end up with a little bit of a credit for a little bit of a charge for credits. It's obviously way more than that. And what's cool is, at least with like United, it gives you future flight credits, American trip credits. Like those are transferable. Future flight credits, you call them, you say like, hey, I want to kind of convert this to a electronic travel certificate. You can kind of use that and transfer it. Obviously, trip credit with American is transferable. It's really cool. It does this also with points redemption. So if you book the flight, and especially like when you think about beating dynamic pricing, which is something I do all the time, is this really changes the way that I book. I don't mind buying tickets that are more expensive now, or even locking in a point redemption that may not be the world's best point redemption, because I know that there's someone, or at least in this case, a system that is processing my kind of checking 24/7 from the on my behalf, which is really cool. Again, when I think about this, it has saved me $1,400 so far since I kind of signed up for my account. And I like to think that I book at the right time. As I said, though, it has changed my behavior because I don't need to book anymore at the right time, because the right time is book now, take the credit, and then just apply the credit to the next time you book with.
Amazing. If people want to try it out on their own or they have any questions about the app, where can they go?
So here's, you can see kind of just quick overview of the dashboard. You've got kind of your flights, you add them in. This kind of dummy kind of saved $45. If you want to learn more about Autopilot, the website is withautopilot.com. If you have any questions, any further follow-up, support at With Autopilot is the support address. It's monitored 24/7. If you follow the founder is Sam Hollander. He's on Twitter and he's been kind of active. It's funny, actually, the way that the two of us actually originally connected way back when. He had been following me for a while. And he was like, hey, want to help me out with kind of a points and miles project? I'm like, maybe, but what is it? And that's how we all got started. So yeah.
Fantastic. And if people have questions for you, remind us, where can we find you online?
Of course, I am always at Zach Griff. Instagram, I have an underscore. It's funny, just a super fun fact is my wife made my Instagram account for me in like 2019 or something, as I had never really been into it. I was not going to share, and I was late to get the Zach Griff without the underscore, so I had to put an underscore. So that's why I have an underscore on Instagram, TikTok, no underscore, but underscore also on Twitter. So, but you type in Zach Griff, I have worked the SEO gods to the place where all you need to do is type it in. You'll find all my accounts and socials. And I'm at contact@zachgriff.com if you want to ask me any questions as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Zach, so much for joining us on today's episode. Really excited to try out Autopilot myself because I book a lot of short haul flights, trying to maintain my American Airlines status. So hopefully I can get some credit back that way too.
Amazing. Thanks so much for the time. And again, everyone out there, any questions on point miles? Obviously, Julie knows everything, but I know some things too. So anytime, I'm always happy to help folks.
Thank you.